Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back. Okay, as promised, I spent a few days looking into all Harry and Meghan's financial dealings, their foundations, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to start with MWX, the Markle Windsor Foundation, which was, in fact, just the transitional name for Sussex Royal. Now, the Sussexes left the actual Royal Foundation, which is now called the Royal Foundation for the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, in June 2019, and they then formed Sussex Royal. Okay, now the fact that when the Royal Foundation was split into the Royal Foundation for the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Sussex Royal, money was paid out. A portion was paid out to Sussex Royal, which is a portion that obviously they thought Harry had worked for over the years and as a startup for Sussex Royal. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. However, what is strange is that after Harry and Meghan stepped down and Sussex Royal was being dissolved, Sussex Royal was renamed MWX Foundation on the 5th of August and dissolved on the same day. Now, just to reiterate, in July 2020, paperwork was filed to dissolve Sussex Royal. At the end of July 2020, an official notice was filed to change the Sussex Royal name to MWX. Documents stated that Harry and Meghan and 5 directors would change the name of Sussex Royal to MWX while it is being dissolved. A change of name notice was filed. On the 28th of July, a special resolution to wind up was passed and a liquidator appointed. The next day, appointments of the secretary and all the directors, except for Harry, were terminated and the foundation ceased to legally exist on the 5th of August. Now, in March 2021, the Charity Commission of Wales and England conducted a review. Although the Commission concluded that the Foundation did not act unlawfully, it criticised the Board of Directors for expending a substantial portion of funds to setting up and closing the charity, which is exactly what they did. I mean, we're talking about them having paid amounts of 15,600, 26,000, and 35,000 just to set up and dissolve and get all the paperwork done, accounting statements, blah, blah, blah. So that is all very, very true. Now, moving on, if we look at Travelyst, we'll find that it was in the works and announced in September 2019 already, but it was only registered in April 2020, with 2 directors listed, namely Heather Wong, an American, as director, and James Holt, British, as Director of Communications. Harry was registered as PSC, Person with Significant Control. It is a private company limited by guarantee, and Harry owns 75% or more shares in the company and has 75% of the voting rights. Late in December, it was reported that Travelyst made a profit of £11,538 for the period prior to and ending on June 30th, 2021. The company's house data shows that Travelyst was owed £106,537 by debtors, had £241,433 cash in the bank and in hand, but owed an amount of £336,432 to creditors. The statement does not detail who the debtors or the creditors are, or where the cash in the bank came from. But in May 2021, it became known that it was money transferred from MWX Foundation. And again, although the Charities Commission found that MWX did not act outside of charity law by transferring funds to Travelyst, I'm sorry, but this cannot possibly be right. As you can see, the name change from Sussex Royal to MWX basically took place on the 5th of August, the same date as the notice was given to dissolve the company, which means that MWX did not exist legally before the 5th of August 2020. Thus, no money could be deposited to or paid from MWX prior to the 5th of August 2020. So, either they cooked the books and the money was paid from Sussex Royal sooner, likely April 2020, or it was indeed paid from MWX between the 5th of August and the 31st of August when the liquidators released their statements and receipts. Now, guys, here is where it gets interesting. If Harry authorised money to have been paid from Sussex Royal Foundation to Travelyst, it would have amounted to fraud and theft and be totally illegal because Sussex Royal Foundation was a registered non-profit, or as they call it in other countries, a not-for-profit company, and Travelist is obviously not. The money paid to Sussex Royal as their share when the split from the Royal Foundation, now the Royal Foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, was indeed money collected for and donated to charity, mostly the patronages supported by the two couples. I am aware that Harry and James Holt informed the Charities Commission that Travelist is or would also be a non-profit or not-for-profit entity, but a search on the 23rd of December 2021 revealed that Travelist is still not a registered charity. Guys, we are talking a year and 4 months after Sussex Royal and MWX were dissolved. So I'm putting it to you that there is absolutely no intention to run Travelist as a charity or a non-profit or not-for-profit or whatever you want to call it. Also significant, I think, is that Heather Wong resigned her position as executive director of Travelist on the 28th of February 2021. This is significant in the sense that Heather was Harry's assistant private secretary at Kensington Palace before he and Meghan quit. But I digress and want to jump back to Sussex Royal and MWX, as they are, for all intents and purposes, one and the same thing, just called by a different name. On the 1st of September 2021, it was reported that MWX still owes a charity £78,500. The MWX financial report shows that a claim of £213,000 had been received from a creditor. It further shows that £134,000 of the claim was paid off, leaving obviously the £78,500 outstanding. So I went digging and drew the final liquidation statements for MWX drawn up by Coutts and released by the Companies House dated the 21st of August 2021. Clause 3.4 is very interesting and reads as follows. The charity MWX Foundation had one wholly owned subsidiary, namely MWX Trading Limited. MWX Trading Limited went into solvent liquidation on May 4th, 2021. In other words, we are talking about September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. 9 months after MWX Foundation was dissolved. The report found that although the MWX charity held shares in MWX Trading, the shares had no value and there is no expected income from the shares. So obviously they had plans for MWX Trading. Remember all those trademarks that they wanted to register for pencils and t-shirts and blah blah blah. I assume that's what they wanted to use MWX Trading for. But obviously they never got that far and it wasn't done, and MWX never traded anything. Carrying on, in clause 4.1 of the report, it states that there are no outstanding charges from a secured creditor. According to my learned friend, a secured creditor would be someone or something like a bank, or in other words, those who would get preference when it comes to payments during a liquidation. In clause 4.3, referring to unsecured creditors, they admit to the claim for £213,000 they received, but, and this is important, they do not state who the creditor is, just that it is a grant due to a non-profit. Now that's interesting. Anyway, then it states that an amount of £104,500 was paid. And that, my friends, brings us again to the 78,500 still outstanding. Now, my dear friends, I have two questions. Who is this mystery creditor? Was it Travelist? Was that £134,500 the money paid to Travelist? The next question would be, if there was £273,000 in the bank and this claim was from a legit charity, why didn't they pay out the full amount and be done with it? Well, again, I asked my learned friend and he said that it is standard practice in a liquidation scenario not to pay the unsecured creditors in full, as money need to be held back in case there are still costs and monies due to a secured creditor at the end of their financial year. Okay, cool. So I went back to the statements and found that the claim received was not actually for 213,000, but actually for 248,000 pounds. But that the directors or trustees made provision for pre-liquidation costs of 35,000 pounds and therefore submitted a claim to the liquidators of 213,000 pounds. So they have already deducted whatever possible costs there can be in the future from this claim and only submitted the balance of the claim to the liquidators. So there goes that theory. As of 30th of June 2021, that outstanding amount of 78,500 has not been paid to whoever the creditor may be, and neither had the liquidator's fee of £26,561.40. Now, guys, the weird thing is, why was the name change done while the Sussex Royal Foundation was being dissolved? Why incur those costs of not only the name change, but also the extra set of liquidation accounts? It is my guess that it was done to hide something. Most likely that transfer of charity money to Travelyst. But guys, if you think this is where it ends, you will be sorely mistaken. Okay, Now that I had a sip of water, let's carry on. Archwell Incorporated is comprised of the subsidiaries Archwell Foundation, Archwell Productions, and Archwell Audio. Now, the first thing we were told this year is that Archwell Foundation received less than $50,000 in the past book year. And I made sure for you that $50,000 is not after deductions or payouts, but it is based on total receipts. And that is what they received in donations all through fundraising. What we do not know, though, is what Archwell Productions and Archwell Audio's income or turnover was for the past year. Even though we know that they did not receive the full 150 million from Netflix, I would assume they likely received some kind of retainer at the signing of the deal, and would assume that the money was paid to Archwell Productions. How else are they paying the salaries of Nishika Campbell, Chanel Pisnik, Rebecca Sananes, and Ben Browning? Similarly, I would assume that Spotify paid them a retainer, and although much less than the 18 million value of the deal, whatever it was likely paid to Archwell Audio. So that sounds relatively simple, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Even though the pair has not physically produced anything, the updated website states that Harry's documentary on Invictus and Meghan's Pearl is still in the pipeline. So maybe we'll see the fruit of their labor this year. But again, I digress. While we are kept busy speculating about how Harry and Meghan are paying their bills, there are other things happening in the dark around the corners and out of sight. We know that Meghan's book, The Bench, was published on June 8, 2021 by Random House. And we know that Harry's memoir will come out in 2022. Now, I am asking you, why on earth would Megan's business manager and accountant, Andrew Meyer of Freemark, and Megan's attorney, Richard Gannar, establish a publishing company, Paracorp Publishing, as a branch of Pika Publishing? I spoke again to the chartered accountant and was told that it is common practice for people with diverse business interests to set up multiple companies, and that unfortunately it is quite legal. There are a few reasons for doing so, and the most obvious and common one is as a safeguard. Should one of the businesses fail, it will thus not affect the other. But it also provides numerous tax loopholes, easier estate and tax planning, and at the end of the day can and will save you millions, obviously depending on your income, in tax, particularly in the United States, where different states have different tax laws and states have different treaties with one another. Accounting can be made a lot of fun by transferring money from one company to another to get the best tax benefit for all. For example, Archwell Productions can invoice Archwell Audio for doing an advertisement for them, or can invoice Paracorp Publishing, etc., etc. But in the meantime, back at the ranch, all the money goes into the same pocket, and Harry and Meghan can draw dividends, wages, salaries, or annual profit from each entity. Now, as I said, this is not illegal, but on deeper analysis, there are some shady things going on, and I just want to recap. One, why do the name change from Sussex Royal to MWX while it's being liquidated? All anyone I asked could come up with was to try and hide the transfer of funds to another entity, like Travelyst. But of course, for some reason it leaked and it didn't work. Secondly, recent newspaper reports were correct in stating that Harry and Meghan spent more on setting up and dissolving Sussex Royal and MWX than they collected for the Archwell Foundation. But when we consider this, we are faced with other questions. If Harry and Meghan collected 50,000 or less for the Archwell Foundation, where did they pay the $25,000 for Melba's from? And where did they pay the roof repairs for the women's shelter from? We know the nappies and lunches and vegetables probably came from Procter and Gamble, but where did the cash donations they were flaunting actually came from? Thirdly, if it's not illegal to register property in a trust and it's not illegal to own a multitude of companies, why are Harry and Meghan trying so hard to hide it behind shell companies, giving different addresses, etc., etc.? Why not simplify it by having it under one umbrella? It is my opinion that there is a basic, inherited slyness about Meghan, which Harry has now adapted to, as he does not know any better, not ever having done anything like this for himself. It is my opinion that they are purposefully complicating their business ventures as it provides the loopholes and gaps they need to pay minimum tax, donate the absolute minimum, if anything, and pocket the maximum amount of money from all their endeavors. Somehow, no one can get close enough to get to the bottom of anything, leaving them free to lie, manipulate, coerce, and hide things. But it is like my father always said, nothing stays hidden forever, and what you put in is what you'll get out. So let them continue with their shadiness and lies. The day will come when someone, or even the IRS, will wake up, bring those warrants, and have a closer look, and we'll just sit back and watch the next royal scandal unfold. Other alternative is, will the ginger whinger step away and divorce the wife before it can happen and leave her to bear the consequences? Or will Daddy Charlie step in and pay up to avoid the scandal? I don't know. Like you, I'm waiting for this to play out, and play out it will someday. Okay, my dears. If you wish, you can stop the video, pause it, and read the statements on the screen for yourselves if I've gone through it too quickly. That's it from me for today. As you can hear, my voice is still not back completely, but I'm feeling much better. My nose is no longer blocked. I've still got a bit of earache, but otherwise, I'm feeling just fine. Guys, until we meet again on the next video, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.